I'm Hugh Hewitt in Fort Worth, Texas, where is gathering the American Legislative Exchange Council. ALEC has been around for many, many decades, and they are gathering in Texas for their winter meeting. And I've done this as my third winter meeting with ALEC. I always have a lot of fun talking to everyone from every state that I can possibly grab over 2 days. And I start off with Jon Brien because Jon is from Rhode Island. And I think it's wonderful to start with someone from Little Rhode because they've always been the problem child in the 50 states. And is that fair, Jon?
I think that's fair, yes. Hugh.
And Representative, I want people to understand, you guys wouldn't even attend the Constitutional Convention. You wouldn't vote for anything.
We were last to agree. We were the last. We held out.
But you have two senators in the smallest state, not the smallest by population, but geography. How did you manage to get two congressmen?
Purely by fraud. I mean, they gamed the system when it came time to counting the population during the census. They made sure they fought vehemently against the notion that you have to be a legal citizen to be counted, and they made sure that the numbers were such that they would hold the two seats, and that was because they didn't want to have an all-out brawl at the time between David Cicilline and Jim Langevin, who you might recall. Jim was a paraplegic that was in the House, and they wanted to avoid a primary between the two of them. Wanted to keep two representatives, so they just gamed the system, and that's how Democrat regimes do it.
So you are the state equivalent of the District of Columbia. That means you are so blue, no one ever campaigns there. You're the bluest blue state that there is.
I think that that's pretty accurate. I will say that President Trump, I believe the number he got in Rhode Island was 42%.
Oh, that's better than Massachusetts. He only got 33%.
Yeah, so he got, there are, you know, in my hometown of Woonsocket, Rhode Island, they used to say it's a French city by origin of immigrants from Quebec, and they used to say Democrat is French for Republican. and there's a lot of those towns in cities in Rhode Island in which there are heavy Italian populations that are Democrats. You can't get elected as a Republican, but they're all very conservative. So it's that really has been the battle in our General Assembly and the House of Representatives as well. It's always been the battle between the moderates, the conservatives, and the liberals within the supermajority.
All right, so Representative Jon Brien, I want to know what Rhode Island does about fraud in SNAP and fraud in Medicaid, because there's going to be a theme for the next 2 days with everyone from different states. You're the first one up. We've got this massive fraud scheme unraveling in Minnesota. Do you have that problem in Rhode Island, and do you go hunting for it?
I think that we have a definite problem in Rhode Island. I know that the General Assembly, in its infinite wisdom, decided to grant driver's licenses to illegal aliens. They did that. This is my second time in the General Assembly. If I had been there when they had passed that piece of legislation, it would have been a Nikita Khrushchev moment for me. My shoe would have been off, and I would have, asked what the hell we're doing. But there's a lot of catering to the illegal alien population in Rhode Island, and that's why the state, the Secretary of State, Greg Amore, refuses to comply with the Department of Justice and hand over the voter rolls as was requested.
Let me emphasize this for our audience. They have gotten a request from probably Harmeet Dillon,
yes,
who is the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and she said no. And they said no to her.
They said they would not comply, that it was a typical Trump bullying tactic, and they weren't going to comply. And then they asked for the SNAP information. Same thing. They're not going to comply. What they're going to do is they're just going to whistle past the graveyard until such time. And I'm sure that they will go to court. And when they do, in the federal district in Rhode Island, they will probably win, because one of the top judges, Jack McConnell, in the federal district court, is a huge Democrat donor.
Well, you probably never had a Republican judge, because judges have to be confirmed with the blue slip from both senators. You've had Republican senator. Last one was probably John Chafee, or he was governor, wasn't he? When was the last Republican senator you had in Rhode Island? It's like trivia time for Rhode Island.
Yeah, I really can't. I can't
come up with one.
I can't name one. We've had the closest we've come is we've had Republican governors, but it's been a while since we've had a Republican governor. You may be familiar with the former Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo.
Yeah.
She left Rhode Island in a fiery mess and went to Washington to be the.
But she's a Rhodes Scholar.
Well,
representative. She's supposed to be very smart.
No,
How could she leave the state?
Well, I'm not questioning her intelligence. I'm just saying, boy, that she left Rhode Island in smoldering ruins, and then handed it over to the least popular governor in the United States, which is our now governor, Dan McKee.
Who's going to run against Dan McKee?
The former CEO of CVS, Helena Foulkes, is running right now.
Got a chance?
Well, he's the least popular governor. I think he's polling among Democrats at 13% from the last poll. So the Speaker of the House may jump in. He's a moderate guy, and so there's some tomato cans on the Republican side that have gotten involved.
The Chuck Wepners of my party
Yeah.
are legion, and they always show up in the blue states.
Yes.
Right? They're always punching bags, and they're useful for some things.
So I think the Speaker of the House may jump in, and people will say, well, why the hell? The Constitution in Rhode Island makes the Speaker of the House the most powerful political position in the state, much more so than the governor. And so people ask, well, why would you leave that? Because he's waiting for one of the senators to retire so he can have die, and he can have.
They're pretty old, aren't they?
Yes, and
Sheldon and Jack Reed,
and then perhaps he can appoint himself as senator. So who knows? There's always
what happened to Secretary Raimondo? I always thought she might be a Democratic star rising, but it was a very useless 4 years. She was not very present in the cabinet deliberations.
I suspect that, well, she's making good money once again, as she did before in the private sector before she became treasurer and then governor. And so I don't know if she will go backwards into Rhode Island. I suspect that she used to babysit for Jack Reed. There's always a chance that could happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future you saw the Speaker of the House now, Joe Sicarci, who's a great guy, by the way, and Gina Raimondo as your United States Senators from Rhode Island, which will be, once again, blue representation.
2 blue votes, for sure.
Unbelievable.
John, before I go and talk about some of my sponsors, would you just tell people, why do you run? Why do you do this when you're one independent with 75 members, of whom 64 are Democrats, right?
64 Democrats, 10 Republicans, and me, the leader of the independent caucus.
So why do you do it?
Well, it's certainly not for the juice, because I said to you off air, I have all the power of a general in the Salvation Army. But I do it because I'm at the stage of my life where I can call balls and strikes very vocally. I can use the bully pulpit. My Democrat friends will say to me after debates on the floor, when I stand up and I make what I think are very cogent arguments, they say, we love you. I agreed with everything you said, and we love you because you say everything that we're thinking but aren't allowed to say. And so the way I look at it is, if it's a good bill, it's a good bill. If it's a lousy bill, it's a lousy bill. And I don't care who sponsored it or what the policy is. I just want what's best for Rhode Island, and so I don't.
You are an outlier.
I don't caucus with anyone, Hugh. I run as an independent, and I'm just a nerd. I love government, and I love trying to make the state better. And
a rational person from Rhode Island. What a great way to kick this off. Representative Jon Brien, thank you for joining me today from the great state of Rhode Island.